This is my job, capturing the light and harvesting its energy. I am a PV engineer at Zenshine Solar. Over the past 10 years, across 100-degree latitudes from the north to the south, Zenshine Solar EPC team with nearly 200 people around the world has established a number of PV plants worldwide, continuously producing clean energy and powering the green life, with meticulous management, belief, and control at every step we take. Let's take a look at Zenshine Solar this month. At 9:30, the same time, this is the PV module workshop located in Shenzhen, China. It is a fully automated production line with intelligent management and control system and production lifecycle tracing to guarantee the quality of each and every product.
Working can we start in like 7 minutes? Yes.
Real-time data collection along with real-time control management through the whole production brings higher efficiency and more reliable products. At 9:30, with world-leading equipment here at Zenshine Solar, testing center is well operated. Engineers are fully concentrating on their work. Zenshine Solar has developed a rigorous testing program to accurately control every procedure and ensure product reliability and stability. At 9:30, Zenshine Solar is holding a seminar on PV modules with 1500 V system voltage at R&D Center. As a leading player in the industry, Zenshine Solar is committed to the R&D of modules and products development in applications to provide and create more applicable products to meet the industry trends, bringing more green value. At local time 9:30, Zenshine Solar EPC engineers are working on the early stages of design for a large PV plant. Thanks to its professionalism and integrity, Zenshine Solar has become the first Chinese company to gain Japan-recognized EPC qualification and has become a premium brand in the Japanese market. This has been achieved through high-quality products and excellent services. Zenshine Solar is exploring the potential of PV application to a broader sense, investing and establishing multiple types of power plants, and powering the green life through the support of professional team and excellent quality. On the other side of the power plant, operational maintenance team is monitoring the status of the power plant through a remote control PC portal. Data analysis further facilitates the smooth operation of power plants, reducing maintenance cost and realizing favorable profits. With a wealth and establishment of experience in PV investment and sound cooperation with many renowned banks and financing institutions, Zenshine Solar is able to share resources with investing parties and help them to obtain loans with a lower interest rate. At 9:30, Zenshine Solar project engineer and dealers are installing a residential rooftop system. Zenshine Solar provides complete kits to family users, helping users in installation, debugging, and providing relevant training, Q&A, and a return visit. In residential solar systems, Zenshine Solar applies inverters with Wi-Fi function, which facilitates users to log into Zenshine Solar WeChat portal at any time, conveniently monitoring system generation data and receiving profit returns. At the same time, Zenshine Solar sales team in Shanghai, China, are communicating with their local offices worldwide and having intense discussions on Zenshine Solar's global sales and distribution strategy. As a manufacturer of high-performance modules, EPC, PV developer, and operator, Zenshine Solar has established diversified sales modes with 200 megawatt overseas capacity to supply customers, whether in the US, Canada, Germany, or in Brazil, Japan, and India. You can find Zenshine Solar branches worldwide. Changes happen rapidly. Honor belongs to the past. We believe that every individual of Sunshine Solar will get the highest satisfaction with premium quality water products and services. At this moment tomorrow, what will happen in Sunshine Solar? The light will not stop and neither will the dreams. Sunshine Solar will continue to be engaged in providing innovative PV solutions, continue to provide clean energy to mankind, powering the green.
Test, test, test.
Can you hear me? Hello? Just move away. Maybe like this.
We need one more chair or it's closed. Okay.
But someone please start the Zoom.
Yeah. Hamza. Oh.
Guys, can you hear me? Is it okay? There is who invented the Zoom? I don't know who invented the Zoom. I did say 10 minutes, right? They still have 1 minute. I'm going to.
ما هاي صح اشتهر.
Is everybody coming?
يلا الكل.
Mazen, would you like to join us? It's good then because
Yes.
Christina, can you hear me? We're all delayed.
حبيبي بس ما تجيش تحكي على الجروب بس هو الثانية في احنا ما بعتنا لأنه في بعد سايت ناقص نكفوه بعد ما خلصوا.
Christina, can you hear me?
ما بعرف على أساس إنه بتيجي نبعتهم ولا خلص كمان لا في ناقص خلص لا راحت بس
No, it's good to see you guys.
Please can you switch?
Christina, can you hear me?
Yes, now better. Now I'm better.
Okay. This South, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, but I'm asking Miss Gaga. Can you hear me?
Yes, the voice is not very clear, but I can hear you.
Not clearly?
There is some echo. It's like not so clear. We can hear your voice, but it's not like too clear.
From this one?
How's this one?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, better. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Okay, sorry for the delay. The first session was a bit longer than expected, but at least we had a good conversation. So we will keep the investments at the minimum, considering there are not so many in Lebanon at this moment. Thank you, Anthony, Jabur, for being with us today, Romana, Christina, virtual but good, and Ms. Dao, thank you. I don't have time to go through everyone's bios, as time is not in our favor, but I want to start with Christina, who is a lawyer, and she's been working on all the energy laws in Lebanon, and her favorite is 462. Christina, can you hear me?
Yes, kind of, yeah.
Okay.
Trying my best to concentrate to hear you well.
I'm sorry for the echo. So, Christina, what is happening with 462 now? Considering the financial collapse, is 462 still applicable? Or are we still able to implement it in any way?
Okay, perfect. First, allow me to thank you, Raluca, for all your efforts, continuous efforts in the energy sector, and for always organizing this energy strategy summit, because this is much needed in these days. We're gonna keep pushing until really we reach somewhere like in this sector, hopefully for good reforms. When we talk about good reforms, we cannot but mention Law 462, which is an important law which has been in place since 2002 and unfortunately never fully implemented today. When you ask me about like if this law is still valid, of course this law is still valid, and this is an important legislation, especially within this economic and financial crisis. Maybe because like people think, and like now because it is an international prerequisite, like to have the law 462 implemented fully, people think that this law is only related to the appointment of the independent regulatory authority members. This is an important part, but this is not only the only pillar of this law. This is one pillar of two other main pillars of this law. Having the area board members is very important, but like it is very important to have them appointed in an independent way, not to be politically affiliated. This is very important to have them transparently appointed through a transparent mechanism. This is one. Once we have the ERA board members in place, we need to continue the implementation of the other pillars of the law, which are the breach of the monopoly of EDL. If we only appoint the ERA members and we don't continue with the sequence of the implementation of Law 462, this would not lead us to any reform pillars. Because like the most important part of the law is to unbundle the energy activities and breach the monopoly of EDL over the two main activities, which are the generation and the distribution of electricity, and pave the way for the private sector involvement in these two activities. And this is very important and much needed within this financial collapse. But this is prerequisite is to have open, transparent procurement and to abide by the law itself without any amendments. Because we're used to have the law in place and then go into the original version and amend it the way politicians would love to have it as per their own interest. So the main now kind of call is to have the law as it is, fully implemented, appointing the ERA member and then unbundle the energy activities and call upon the private sector. And this is what we call public-private partnership. Although the law calls for privatization, but this is not really the case. Because back then in 2002, privatization was the reform wording that was used to be used. And especially that this law, when it was ratified given like Paris 2 kind of requirements. And then back then, privatization was this wording. But when we go to inside the law and we check, it calls for public-private partnership. And currently, if we don't call for the private sector to be involved in the energy activities, we are not able to provide good energy for people. We're almost on, it's been 21 days that we're almost on total blackouts. Lebanese are almost on total blackouts. Even they're like not even having 1 hour of electricity. This is all because we don't have dollars in place. So having the private sector involved, this will help. But this should be through real kind of transparent procurement. So if I may go back to your question, yes, this law is still valid. This law should be implemented as a whole unit, not only like bits and pieces. We've been implementing this law since 2002. We've been implementing only the point that allows generation for self-consumption. We should give a chance, really, and it's now, because like we've totally collapsed in this sector. We need to give a chance for real reforms and fully implement the law.
And what else do we need? In terms of legal, from a legal perspective, what else do we need so we can start talking about real investments in Lebanon?
From a legislative point of view, you mean? Yeah?
Yes.
Yes, okay. As I mentioned earlier, like Law 462 is an umbrella framework law. It calls for the regulation of the electricity sector. It is like, it gives the boundaries, it gives like, puts the pillars in place. But this law alone is not sufficient, because when this law was ratified in 2002, renewable energy was not back then a kind of something very familiar with in 2002. Now it's becoming a need and a must. So now we need lots of secondary legislation. This law is important because it regulates the electricity sector, but we also need some other pieces that complement Law 462, especially when it comes to renewable energy. That's why we've worked on the DRE, the Distributed Renewable Energy Draft Law, with EBRD and with the Ministry of Energy and Water and with EDL. And here, really, I would like to salute EDL because they did a great effort and a great job working on this law. So hopefully we have this law also ratified in its original version, and I really emphasize on its original version. This is one. We need also, like later on, a renewable energy law, a general renewable energy law. We need the energy efficiency law, and I've been part of support to the counterpart of the Lebanese government to work on the energy efficiency law, and now it's not talking a lot about this law. So we need lots of kind of secondary legislation. The DRE is an essential now, a need. Why? Because also it paves the way for decentralizing a small project when it comes to renewable energy, because this law is tailored only for renewable energy. Now, there is no appetite and no incentives for the private sector to come and invest in renewable energy once they are not allowed legally to generate and distribute and sell electricity. So that's why the DRE is an important pillar. And when we worked on this law, it was like it was intentionally paving the way without putting any bottlenecks, without having intermediary people or organizations like the ministry or EDL to give authorization. We wanted to pave the way up to 10 megawatt private to private. So this is why I call really to ratify this law in its original draft without any kind of amendments in order really to incentivize the private sector and pave the way for real investments in the renewable energy. Also to pave the way for municipalities to kind of be involved in community kind of villages in renewable energy scale projects when it comes to municipal or union of municipality. So also this law is much needed. It is a secondary legislation and waiting for other pieces of legislation that do continue and complement the whole picture of the energy sector in Lebanon.
Thank you, Christina. Because you were talking about private sector and investments in private sector, we have here Mr. Rapour representing Cedar Oxygen, and he can tell us something about investments in renewable energy and how Cedar Oxygen is supporting some kind of projects.
I think some kind's an understatement. It's more than some kind. We've definitely financed a number of projects in the industrial sector. Just by way of background, Cedar Oxygen is a fund based in Luxembourg. We are a $175 million fund. The funds are they're in Swiss bank accounts, and we're using those funds to finance 3 verticals for Lebanese industrialists. The first one, originally when we started out, was for supply chain finance, meaning it was to finance basically raw materials. Then when we conducted our outreach, we understood what the needs of the industrialists were. They requested CAPEX and then renewable energy. Now, just to complement what Christine was saying, I think the imperative is, I'll just take a couple of points she mentioned and build on that, and I'll make this short. Basically, obviously, there's an inherent need when you know that even people in Lebanon, every single person, from the upper echelons of the country to right down the bottom, are requesting renewable energy. You know there's a dire need for it. 10 years ago, the repayment period on renewable energy was something like 10 years and 20 years. Today, because of the higher price of diesel, the improvement in technology, and the fact that because energy was subsidized at one stage for a long period of time, and now those subsidies have been lifted, obviously it's a lot more economical today. So what we're doing is we lend to Lebanese industrialists loans of up to 2.5 years, inclusive of a 6-month grace period. And those loans can go up to $1.5 to $2 million per industrialist. And from the impact that we've created, I can tell you, we've approved more than 15 loans for renewable energy for Lebanese industrialists. What you need to know is the following. By any measure and any benchmark today in any solution, whether it's with batteries or without batteries, so everybody wants PVs, right? Now, whether it's with the batteries during, so they can cover a 24/7 shift, or it's during the day only, they basically, what they can do is, from the savings that they have on the energy, they can basically repay those installments. So for example, on average, what we've realized is there's about 25% of savings on projects. So for example, if a client comes to us and says, I need $500,000 for a project, we finance the $500,000, that ends up saving about 25% of his energy needs. And essentially, that repayment over 2.5, no more than 3 years, actually comes from those savings. So he doesn't actually have to generate any additional income to repay those installments. So I think that's the imperative. We're in a very sweet spot here. But I think what we need to do is, what I can't overlook, and I really need to tell you this, is that energy, after the lifting of subsidies, has become an existential threat to the survival of many SME businesses in Lebanon. And I think we've realized this because we've conducted our outreach, and after conducting our outreach, we realized what the pain points of these industrialists are. The ones that have, some of them were very lucky because they managed to settle a lot of debt that was in dollars. So basically they had bank debt. They settled that debt. We stepped in, we financed them. So today, because of all the problems that have happened in Lebanon, some of them are in a much more sustainable path. So for example, because of the depreciation in currency, their OPEX has come down, correct? And because of the increase in the dollar rate, so basically the dollars, they've settled a lot of their debt. So they've removed that financing cost because they've settled their debt at a very cheap rate. But beyond this, renewable energy today, when it says what it does for the companies, for these industrialists, it's not only saving them costs, it's positioning them in the market for import substitution. It's placing them on a much more competitive level vis-a-vis countries abroad, so they can export to new countries. And I think these things really cannot be overlooked because renewable energy today, we're being approached by a lot of stakeholders, DFIs and others that have deep pockets. And in the previous panel discussion, this was mentioned. There are some really deep pockets that have been allocated. Some of them are conditioned to an IMF solution, but others are actually extending money either together with us through technical assistance, through grants. UNDP is an example who we've worked with on a major project. It was a 1.8 megawatt project in the Bekaa. That company alone saved 30 to 40% in energy. They managed to they've almost become a monopoly in the market in what they do. And beyond that, now for the first time, they've actually become competitive enough to start exporting to new markets. So I'm not saying it's only because of renewable energy, but when it comes to a lot of the companies after the crisis have been forced, they basically used to sell only locally. So they continue to sell locally, right? But that energy cost has really hurt them. It really, really hurt them. By us supporting them, I know some of them have managed to adopt import substitution through a combination of our offering. But if it wasn't if the financing that we gave them wasn't complemented by the renewable energy, they wouldn't have been able to survive today. And that's a fact. And we've got the data because the way we assess each and every credit is way beyond what the conventional needs were previously. I just want to let that's a bit of hands-on kind of information that people tend to overlook, and many people actually don't have data on, in a nutshell. But let me just tell you one thing. If there's one thing that is considered a no-brainer today in Lebanon for investments, it's renewable energy. So today, when the repayment is 2.5 to 3 years, whether it's on a residential level, on an industrial level, and we not only know that, everybody knows that, it's public information. And the same way that we're trying to allocate funds, more and more funds, to industrialists, we're creating a new fund called LEAF, Lebanon Economic Empowerment Fund. It's going to allow us to broaden the remit. It's going to allow us to broaden the offering. We're going to have deeper pockets for renewable energy. we're not only going to be allocating to industrialists, it's going to have a much broader scope. So in a nutshell, that's basically what we do. And I just want to give you a bit of feedback and a bit of insight on what we've seen and where I think the market's going. And I'm happy after all the guest speakers have spoken to take some questions if you like.
Thank you. Because we keep talking about investments in Lebanon, but we refer mainly to projects that are implemented. Now, if we look back to the beginning of the year until now, we can assume that like a quarter of the Lebanese people actually became investors in Lebanon from a supplier point of view. What happened to the market because of that, we all know. But what happened from your point of view, Jumana, as a distributor from before? How does this affect you and the market in general?
Thank you, Raluca. First, allow me to continue the first question. I have input on that. First of all, I'd like to explain why I'm on this panel, because we are module manufacturers, the 10th biggest. We produce 10 gigawatt of solar modules per year, and since yesterday, 12. We inaugurated a new plant. So the reason why we're discussing investment is that the module itself is 50% of any renewable energy PV investment. So we are sitting very often at the table of the funder and the developer and the investor as a major stakeholder, because our modules represent 50% of the investment. And also because the regulation of funding is based on the guarantee of the panel. It has to be a tier 1 panel. It has to have a real guarantee of at least 25 years, if not 30 years, and better if it has a third-party insurance like us, right? So by sitting so often with those funding parties, I can confirm that green investment is a reality in Lebanon, but a green funding is available. However, what Christina was explaining is the lack of legal framework, the lack of warranties, the lack of sovereign warranty is missing to bring in the international money. As you know, investors, developers in the renewable energy are global. We see them, the same players play again, EDF, Total, Masdar, Aqua. These are the players in the region, not to mention all, but if you look at the Lebanese scene, you see mostly local investors, local developers, let's call them. Why? Because we are simply not interesting for the international developers, because we do not have the legal framework, we do not have the bankable PPA, we do not have the sovereign guarantee, and we do not have any other guarantee plan. So this puts the local developer in the front, led by the private sector, led by dynamic and energetic private companies who go begging at international funders. They succeed sometimes because they pledge, they guarantee themselves the projects. And of course, there are funds like Cedars Oxygen, thank God, but we know so many that came and couldn't deliver because of lack of legal framework and guarantees. So this explains why I'm here and the sufferings that we understand in the market. We also thrive out of patriotism to bring money. We talk to many stakeholders, and in May I was in France at the Macron's presence requesting money from France to Lebanon to the private sector, because there is a lot of money to help Lebanon in particular and the renewable energy sector. And they all say the same: we need you to ask, we need to come outside the government, we need credible NGOs to support. There is a list of requirements that unfortunately are difficult to meet. So this is to go back to the importance of having bankable PPA. If today our central bank is not bankable, then we need to find other ways to create guarantees through DFIs, other funds that are willing to give that guarantee. And this will not only empower the local developer, but definitely attract international developers. This is to go to some of the first question. Now, to come to your second question in a nutshell, unfortunately, the Lebanese is street smart, and the Lebanese jumps on every opportunity to, take benefit of the situation. And of course, this is good in a way, except the result here is being very painful, as you mentioned. So when demand came very aggressively in the early season, where demand for PV was much higher than supply or current available supply in Lebanon, everybody on the market, everyone having $100,000 aside, decided that this was a sound investment to invest in a few containers, both left, right, and center, definitely, either from China directly, but maybe, and more often not from the manufacturers themselves, from traders or from Dubai. We've seen a lot of material coming in from Dubai. The price per watt on the Lebanese market reached frightening levels of 45 plus. I don't want to go to the very high numbers I heard. As you know, I'm based in Dubai and I'm only here. So the price per watt was selling at record prices. Why? Because of these investors, new players, not really informed. They wanted to make a huge profit in the short term. And the real players that are buying on the spot rate in China and so on, were maintaining a much reasonable price around the 35, 36, let's say, cent per watt. But now what happens? The market is over flooded, there is dumping, and we are witnessing below cost sale. Why? Because these investors want to return back their money. They made the profit earlier in the season at astronomical rates, and now they don't care. They just want to liquidate the stock they have, and this is frightening. There is a huge quantity in the market, and they are dumping these prices. So this is very bad because it eliminates the good material, and it pushes the people to buy from either low quality or good quality, but bought not directly, which is very important. Why? Because if bought from traders, then you lose the warranty. We want to electrify the country with material that can sustain the 25 years at least of lifespan. But China also is under pressure for supply. Demand is higher than supply. There is shortage in a lot. So sometimes quality coming out of China, even for the tier one, is doubtful because of this rush, right? So if you are buying through traders and you have a problem, God forbid, and we've seen, for example, I will name Abu Dhabi's Waihan 1.5 gigawatt, faced a major quality challenge with a tier one brand. It happens, but the tier one brand was there to support the manufacturer defect, right? Who will support this in Lebanon? If we don't know who's the original seller, we don't know through what channel it came, and the company or the investor, as you called it very wisely, that declared himself investor and withdrew later on because it's not a profitable business, who will support, who will take this warranty back? And this is the risk that, yes, I know you wanted to highlight on that point, because professional companies who go with tier one manufacturers from source, from origin, to ensure the quality were penalized, because today they are selling or kind of having to sell at higher than market rate because they cannot dump. Do I answer you?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Dawood, can you hear me? LCEC, can you hear me? Hada? No. I'm not pronouncing right. That's why she doesn't. You're muted. Well, we'll just continue with you, guys. Because you were talking. Are you here? Can you hear me?
Raluca, are you addressing me? Because I can't hear.
Can you hear me better now? You think the echo?
I'm sorry, I don't understand what you're saying. I can hear you talking, but I don't understand what you're saying.
It's what the man would say when he doesn't want to understand what you tell him. I'm just going to do it the old-fashioned way and send you a message so we can. Sorry, guys. So what I wanted to ask her is, how does LCEC manage or trying to, what kind of measures are we taking to solve a bit the problem that we have now with the let's say, market boom in all kind of booms that can exist? So we need to protect ourselves, correct? As suppliers, as installers, as buyers. How do we do that? What safety measures can we apply? You're muted. I will just ask you. Jumana, what do you think that the LCEC, or not LCEC, in general, what should we expect from a government or governmental institutions as a measure, let's say, to regulate the market, something should be done?
Raluca, I don't live in Lebanon, so I just came for the summit, so I wouldn't be able to judge. But what I can remember from before I left LCEC was at least the most active semi-government entity in this field, and what I remember, they had very professional and dedicated teams for the renewable energy advocation and awareness. Now, what have they achieved? I'm not the right person to judge, but what I can say, what happens elsewhere is standardization. I will give the example of Dubai, because DEWA is considered, Dubai Electricity and Water Authority is considered the reference in the area, and I'm very close to them because I consult them. I'm on their board for the 2050 DEWA policy. So DEWA has a list of approved vendors. They're very strict about it. You cannot install and connect to the grid any module or inverter that is not DEWA approved. And this is based on certifications and credibility of the manufacturer and the distributor. So first, yes, regulate. Then they have a list of the approved installers. And again, you cannot connect to the grid. And I'm sure LCEC except LCEC maybe is not able to apply. As Christina was saying, the rule is, the law is there, but it is not applicable. So maybe this empowerment of LEC to go into the implementation of that law is necessary, because what we've witnessed last year is chaotic. We know that there is a boom. I'm just afraid that it's going to be a boom and on the negative, an explosion boom. So let's keep it a booming sector and not an explosive one, by making sure that good material is installed by professional installers, professional EPC companies, and financed by correct channels, whether for the supply chain or the consumption, invest as investment funding. This is key to a successful and sustainable market, because if we spend this money and it goes to waste because the lifespan is lower than the return on investment, this is a drainage of our financing, wherever it comes from. If there is money, let's use it wisely. This is what I would say. That's the only reference. And we gave the example of Dubai, which is really the most developed. DEWA is seriously by far the most developed. But we could look at Iraq, which is definitely not one of the most developed. So Iraq, for example, is now talking about electrification. They've been talking many years, but now actually moving towards, they've reached a bankable PPA. They have the IFC willing to finance. They took time, they took years, but but this year I can guarantee that they are moving, they are walking the talk this year. So if Iraq can do it, I don't see why we cannot do it, right? So this is my take on the subject. John.
There's just one thing I want to say. I don't want to sort of opine. Just one brief thing. If, as Christina mentioned, there's clarity, because today leasing is something that's legal and within certain parameters. But if you get to a stage where the law allows you to have 10, 15, 20 megawatts, you can build it through investor money, whether it's investors or funders. But let me just say, if there's clarity on that scope and they're able to sell it to the grid, believe me, you will find money popping up like there's no tomorrow. Tomorrow, the money will come tomorrow from private investors. They will bring the best technology in the world because the returns are a no-brainer. So nobody's going to compromise on an extra $1 or $2 or $3 or $4, $5 million when they know the return on investment compared to investments around the world today is like, they can make that return 3 or 4 times in the space of 20, 25 years. So I think the imperative is if we get our act together, it's just one adjustment. And I think there's going to be something that's going to be, it's discussed, it's imminent. But apparently it's imminent in Parliament and they're going to pass a law on that. But I think there's a due process as to it coming in. But look, if the law is clear and just simply allowing people who invest in this to sell it to the grids, you'll see the money popping up to the local grid, and on the condition that everything else set as Paris, other things are adhered to and are equal, meaning that the grids can cope with that kind of capacity. You will see money coming into this country for renewable energy like there's no tomorrow. And that's my personal opinion. And I'm telling you this because I've heard it directly from the investors themselves, whether they're individuals or institutions.
So if we need investors, we're going to.
No, we lend. Look, but the investors themselves have said it very clearly to me personally, and they're actually endeavoring to do this. They've taken it upon themselves to do this. They've done their own due diligence. They're going out and speaking to the politicians, to the municipalities, so they know that if they do this, they know that essentially they're not breaching any kind of government regulation. But if this is done, it's a no-brainer. Tomorrow, you will have, the money's already there in the investor money. And the thing is about investor money, private investor money, it's much easier than the institutional money because typically it's more practical. It goes into work much more quickly, especially if they're Lebanese or Lebanese living abroad, they understand the mindset, they come, whereas the institutional money takes time depending on the organization, anywhere from 2-3 months to 1-2 years. And I think this is something that can't be overlooked. It's just a matter of, like Christina said, getting the regulation in place, finalizing it. It's already there, it's just, refining it, chipping off the rough edges.
Just to wrap up, Raluca, if you allow me, I think we should look at the market in two folds. There's the public market with EGL, we heard them, they have a plan with the government, the ministry. This may be medium term, and there is a much faster sector, which proved to be the most dynamic. This is the boom we talked about that was led by residential, but residential market alone and in the chaos that we witnessed is not okay. We need to move to C&I, commercial and industrial investing, and community, which is microgrid villages. This is very, very easy entry because we already have microgrids. We just need to add the renewable energy to the existing microgrids. This needs funding. This can be led by private investors. It needs just a little bit of legal support. We're not talking major changes because that will take the time that we don't have. It can be very fast. It can be very effective because it solves what we call parochialism. One village at a time. So when you solve one village at a time, you already are starting with a solution. It was mentioned before on the panel by Ronnie also, yes, microgrid is the answer. Many examples are in Lebanon. There is one example where we supply the 100% of the material. It is Jahouli village. It is connected since 2019 in the Bekaa. It feeds 33 villages at a time. And it's a private investor that now definitely has returned his investment. We supplied the panel, the inverter, the batteries, the storage batteries, and it's a wonderful example of how private investors can make a change in an area. Here we're talking 3 villages on microgrid level. Later on, when ADL is ready and when the macro policy is ready, we can connect, because these islands can connect later on to the grid. I think this is a no-brainer. This is where we should start and start. I mean, a lot have started, and I know a lot of companies and we Green here have started very active on that subject. So yes, let's not wait and start with it.
Look, I know the government is under a lot of pressure. If the private sector doesn't step up and individuals don't step up, we're going to go to an abyss. You might already think we're in an abyss. It could get much worse, and it could get much better. Okay, that's the reality. But initiatives like this on a rural level will help keep people in villages. It'll help create a rural ecosystem that this country is in dire need of, because we overlook this. But things like this, whether it's energy, particularly energy, is hitting people's pockets, food, and so on and so forth. I come from a village in the north. One guy from Australia, the village next to me, he gave his own money. He supported, he had $300,000, so he equipped our entire village with its energy needs, solar energy needs. It just so happened that this village is at 1,300 meters above sea level. Usually in the winter, 20 to 25% remain in the villages. This year, 70% remain in the village. 30% only went down. So it really helps people. You know, I mean, I'm giving you an example, that's a practical example. But you know, there's one other thing we can't overlook, is once the renewable energy initiative and the bandwagon that investors jump on, if that takes off, then you're going to find investors looking for other opportunities to help both on a rural and on a national level. Don't underestimate that.
I'm sorry, but I need to cut you both. I wanted some questions, but I don't have the time. Alan, I'm sorry, I think I robbed 10 minutes from your time. We can take 10 minutes break, but really, just 10 minutes. And then we go back with the third panel, yes? Thank you.
No reply from this. I know it's not what to do.
Joe.
I sent you. Next time, we're bringing him with the Netherlands.
Okay, so again, I think we're clear now to start. So I'd like to welcome you guys to this third session of the event. In today's session, we have our esteemed guest that will tell you a little bit about the most recent projects that have been implemented or are being implemented or will be implemented soon. So they will tell you about some innovative projects in order to finance and engage people working in the energy sector more and more. So I will start by introducing our guests. I'm going to start with Mr. Mario Reib. So Mario has a professional career over 10 years of project management and contract negotiation. Mario has a degree in law, so he's not an engineer. It's always good to have some outsiders. He also has a master's in international contracts. He worked as an environment project manager at Arc-en-Ciel, who was leading some waste management projects, and he has developed a lot of policies in that field as well. And nowadays, he's a program advisor and project manager at ICU, and he's with us today to tell us a little bit about the Restart program. Also, we have online our guest Ziad Haddad. Ziad is an engineer and entrepreneur in the field of energy and mechanical engineering, MEP engineering. He has an experience of 25 years. He has a master's in mechanical engineering as well as an MBA in enterprise management. Ziad is a board member, past president of the AE Lebanon chapter as well. He has been recently elected as VP for MENA region at AEE. He's a certified water efficiency professional, certified building commissioning professional, and performance contracting and funding professional as well. He's an accredited trainer from the AEE. He has worked as a consultant for several entities like World Bank, Aramco, and other entities in the region and internationally. He's a co-founder of Opus Energy, and he's a trainer, he's an entrepreneur, and he also has a specialty. I don't know if you know it about Ziad. He's a leadership trainer. So thank you, Ziad, for being with us today. Our third speaker is Mr. Omar Al-Kaki. So he's an energy research assistant at the United Nations ESCWA. He's currently supporting the ReGen project, and he's with us today to tell us more about this project. So prior to joining ESCWA, Omar worked at KVA, the utility service provider. He was in charge of MV and LV substations, and he held a lot in this field. In 2019, Omar was elected chair and spokesperson of the Future Energy Leaders of Lebanon. Omar has a bachelor's degree and a master's degree both in electrical engineering. Thank you for being with us today, Omar. And last but not least, I say Smidi for last, Alain, is it your friend? So Alain Bissad, he's a project engineer at Cedro 5. He's with us today to tell us more about the international REC project as well as the Sustainable Energy Hub. Alain is a certified energy manager and a carbon modeling professional. He's certified from the DE as well. He works currently with the CIDRO in Lebanon. He's working on the CIDRO 5 project. He previously worked as a project manager on the role of energy in the water sector with Oxfam GB Great Britain. Thank you, Alain, for being with us. So as I told you, we're going to talk a little bit about projects that have already been implemented recently. So we have some new projects that are currently implemented with some extensions and some projects to anticipate and then will be coming to the market. So let's start with Omar, since Omar will tell us a little bit about the Regent project. And this is a project that has been already implemented. So this is a terminated project, but can you tell us a little bit about the project, about its impact on the energy sector, how it contributed to help the energy sector in Lebanon? Okay.
Hello everyone. So we're talking here about the regional initiative to promote small-scale renewable energy applications in rural areas in the Arab region. It started in 2019. We commenced the closing activities that in December last year. In brief, the region's main target is to promote well-being in rural areas in the world, since they are the ones left behind, since they are the ones less fortunate, with the focus on gender equality, with the focus on youth empowerment, with the focus on entrepreneurship. All of that while using energy and clean energy as an enabler. As a result, and after continuous and a long process of assessment of the perfect entry point for intervention, we implemented field projects in selected rural areas in Lebanon, Jordan, and Tunisia. In Lebanon, we selected the rural community in Akkar Atiba. The beneficiaries were a cooperative that produces food products and that were proactive and that had a gender element. We also selected a cooperative for manufacturing honey, and they were beekeepers, and it was a cooperative that supports beekeepers in the region. And we also implemented a field project in Shaglouf, which is another village also in Akkar. The beneficiaries were a cooperative and an NGO, which had a workshop for sewing, and the solar systems were used to power the machines that were used in the sewing workshop. In addition to the field projects implemented in Jordan, Tunisia, also targeting farmers and targeting small businesses owners in rural areas in Tunisia and Jordan. In addition to the installed field projects and to ensure an integrated approach, we also provided energy efficient, state-of-the-art equipment to go hand in hand with the solar energy systems. The systems were tailored based on the needs and based on consultation with the beneficiaries themselves. In addition to the productive equipment, we also conducted capacity building workshops, also to tailor the needs of the beneficiaries and to ensure that they make the most use of the productive equipment. All of that was also in parallel to preparing knowledge products, to preparing policy briefs, preparing policy toolkit and the business models toolkit and the technology toolkit, all of that to raise the awareness of practitioners and policymakers on how to promote small-scale renewable energy in rural areas in the Arab world. This is a brief introduction.
Yeah, thank you. A small question. So why the focus on rural areas first? And second, can you give us some figures, for example, how much money was invested, how many beneficiaries were introduced to the program? And so I'll give you time, so 3 questions. And will there be an extension for this program, some sort of a continuation that our guests can anticipate?
Well, I can give you, in terms of numbers, I can provide you with the sizes of the solar energy systems. In Akkar it was a 20 kilowatt peak solar energy system. As a matter of fact, there are brochures which provide a lot of details and visuals about the project. You can visit us at our table. So it was a 20 kilowatt peak system at Akkar Atiqa for a building that houses the two cooperatives that I mentioned, in addition to the municipality, and a health clinic in the neighborhood, which ensured a sustainable impact for all of the village. In Shagdouf, the solar system was 10 kilowatt peak to power the machines. And now, as a way forward, we are currently working on monitoring the outcome of the project and ensuring a sustainable impact, because region's business model isn't based on a handout. We're not here to only install a system and go. We are continuously visiting the beneficiaries and monitoring the systems remotely and on-site. As a matter of fact, we were there last week to gain an update of the project and to have a feeling and to have knowledge about where the project stands now and how did the cooperatives and how did the beneficiaries grow since the beginning of the project.
Mario, I'll ask you this question. So I know that now you're in charge of the project, the Restart project. This is a project that has been launched early 2022, maybe with the capacity building. This was the first phase, and and 2021, early 2022, and it's being currently implemented. But can you tell us a little bit more, or for our guests to tell them about this dairy project? So this was like, can you mute Ziad, please? So can you tell us a little bit more about this dairy project? So this was like one of a kind, first time in Lebanon. You were targeting the energy saving performance contracting and the ESCO market, which is like a risky project, knowing that it has failed to be launched in several countries. So can you tell us about the project and why, or can you tell us that it has been successful, or you anticipate to have a successful project?
Success is a bit, Success is a bit early to assess it from now, but let's say we're on the right path till now. Actually, Restart, it's a very complex project, and unfortunately, it was a bit delayed in terms of implementation because of all the wonderful things that the country encountered these past few years. So yeah, as you have mentioned, it started around 2021 officially. Well, actually, Restart, to make it simple, focuses on three main objectives. The first one is related to the awareness in terms of renewable energy, but mainly on energy efficiency to the public and, of course, the private companies. And the other part is to build a proper environment for the implementation of an ESCO business model. And the third part is related to a kind of concretization of what has been worked on during the project through the implementation of 6 pilot projects in which we will be implementing or applying the ESCO business model. So the awareness part was very simple. Thanks for all the mess the country is facing. So it's not by pure awareness or by pure fear of not polluting the environment that private companies and individuals went through or were excited to install PVs and other technologies to reduce their energy consumption. But this was a very positive impact, had a positive impact on the project. So this allowed us to gather more interested SMEs, mainly, through the energy companies. So we got a full list of the different energy companies. And through these energy companies, we met the SMEs that they usually work with. It was not an easy process because there were several applications to fill in, and there was like around more than 120 SMEs and above, of course, 100 companies, energy companies. I'm talking about energy companies, but actually they are not purely energy companies. We have consultancies, we have suppliers, and we have etc. Because the environment is that messy here in Lebanon. What we try to do is just to filter the companies through different criteria that were taken into consideration by several entities from NCEC, UNDP, etc. So we managed to get a selection of certified SMEs and around 20 energy companies that have the potential of being upgraded to ESCO. So this is for the first part. The second part related to the environment, for a proper environment for the development of an ESCO model in Lebanon, ESCO business model. We focused on the capacity building. Why the capacity building? Because the energy companies in Lebanon are a mess. So yeah, they install panels, it's very nice, it's very easy. It was easier with the different financial incentives and different programs whatsoever, which are now all frozen. So when we met these energy companies, it was a mess in terms of energy audit, in terms of monitoring, in terms of measurement and verification, and so on. This is where we had the chance to meet with AEE Chapter Lebanon, Ziad in particular, and then Aram. And we managed to establish a capacity building module or modules based on or tackling the energy management, measurement and verification, and the most important part, which is the energy performance contracting and financing, which is totally absent in Lebanon. So these energy companies were able afterwards to lead an energy audit that was developed by ICU, by the team of ICU. Thank you, Muhammad. And this energy audit is now being standardized by IGNOR. So as you can see in this approach, we're trying to standardize and giving like basics to start building the ESCO business model. And in parallel, we are working as well with a consultant who is helping us in developing the SPC contracts. And moreover, we are working on creating a committee that will involve the different stakeholders in the energy sector in order for us to have an arbitration committee in case any problem or any issue will raise from or will arise from the contractual relationship between the SME and the energy company. Because as you know, the courts in Lebanon, the judges are not that familiar with the ESCO model, so the safest part is go to arbitration to settle these disputes. And through this process, what we have discovered an interest from investors, because in the mess and in this fucked up country, sorry for this, but in this situation, this model is creating a kind of security through ICU for the transparency we have through the documentation, the reporting, how the money is being channeled from bank to bank, where it's being spent, the contracts that will be standardized also by IGNOR of precisely the SPC contract, and to have an arbitration committee. All this is creating a kind of security for investors to invest in renewable energy and mainly energy efficiency to support the private sectors and SMEs.
Thank you. Ziad, can you hear us? Just give me a thumbs up. Ziad? I don't think so. Ziad, can you hear us? Unmute your mic, please. Unmute. Unmute. There's some delay, I think. Okay, so I'm going to ask you.
Let me try to speak actually. Hi, Anna. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear. Ziad, Mario mentioned the part of the capacity building, certification, and accreditation of the ESCOs.
I hear you through my laptop, but I'm listening to you over YouTube.
Okay, I think this is why we have a delay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. So, Ziad, Mario mentioned the part where in the Restart program we had some capacity building, certification, and accreditation for ESCOs. Can you tell us a little bit about the importance of this step in certifying engineers and professionals and accrediting ESCOs? And maybe you can tell us a little bit more about this, the work that he is doing in Lebanon on certification levels outside the Restart project.
Okay, I think there is a huge delay. First of all, I would like to thank you, President Ala, organizers, good friends, Mario, Ala, Omar. I hope I could meet you today and everyone else. I hope you can hear me. It would be good to give me a sign because I stopped listening. So when you wanna, okay, thanks, Ala. And I feel very weird I could not join because I look like a giant behind you, and I can see on the screen like a small cake next to you, Anna. So I look like I'm looking at it. Anyway, thanks, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure always to participate with such panels with such great people. So, and I take this opportunity to thank again Mario and ICU for their trust. We've also been collaborating with Alain, and I hope with ESCWA one day. So we're here to join hands with everyone willing in order to contribute to Lebanon. As you mentioned properly, Alain, yes, our contribution with the Restart project was mainly through the capacity building. And this is specifically why, although we are called the Association of Energy Engineers, we are a people's first association, as you well know, the president. So our focus is on the people, and there is a good reason for that. It's because we believe that it's people who can make the difference. So the contribution of AEE to Lebanon mainly has been through the certification of professionals. We've been doing this since 2017. It was like small, shy initiatives growing now, and hopefully by the end of this year, we will reach around close to 600 participants in our training program, and many of whom are certified. So these certificates are enabling the professionals to get access to the knowledge, to speak the same language, to learn about energy and sustainability, and to have access to better opportunities as well. This is helping their clients, the companies they are working in, and the country in general. And this is like, the core of our mission, having all these colleague professionals taking the certificate, extend our work through them, and contributing in the energy sector through them. So if I want to brief a little bit what these certifications are about. So we have certificates in energy and environment, and these are 4 certificates that we are offering: the CEM, the CEA, the CAP, the carbon auditing professional, and the CLEP, the certified lighting efficiency professional. I believe everyone should know about CEM or CEA, and you are there to clarify more if needed. And we have on the energy performance and contracting element, we have the CMVP, Certified Measurement and Verification Professional, as well as the PCF, Performance Contracting and Funding Professional, which we first introduced during the Restart project. We also have certificates related to building commissioning for most of engineers that work in this particular field, and the relationship between building commissioning and energy retrofit work. So this is called the CBCP, Certified Building Commissioning Professional. We also did not forget the water, which is very, very important. And whenever we speak energy, we should speak water, and we should speak about the synergy between them. And the certificate we offer to AEE is the CWEP, the Certified Water Efficiency Professional. Well, that's on the side of certification, Alain and the audience. On the other hand, AEE is focused on creating a network and being of value to the members of this network, to our community and to Lebanon. We have witnessed this a lot through the past years, where this network has created opportunities for many people through knowing what the jobs available are, the opportunities are, the projects where they are, and collaborating in between members, joining hands on specific projects wherever different expertise are needed. And this is key to getting projects delivered. And thankfully, we have seen many tenders in Lebanon now won by AED certified members, specifically because of the certifications they hold. We're very proud of it. We also focus on the education and the awareness. So besides the professional certifications, we're keen on helping the youth, the future energy professionals, the future engineers. We are present today in 4 universities through university chapters, and this is my invitation to everyone listening to us. If there are students or faculty or connected with any university and they would like to create a AEE chapter at that university, to get in touch with us so that we can help them establish a chapter, and the benefits are numerous, being from participation to the AEE event, applying and winning awards, winning grants, etc. I'd like to mention, I don't know if you want to talk about it now, or I'll keep it for later, our internship program that we offer.
Yeah. Maybe we can keep this to the second part of this session, so we can continue with the main concept of the projects that are being implemented or will be implemented. So thank you, Ziad, for this intervention. Alan, so we talked about the project that are already being implemented, for the finished projects in implementation mode, and you're going to tell us about 2 programs under the C05 program that will be implemented. So can you tell us more about the International REC program and the Sustainable Energy Hub? What to anticipate? What will you offer? How people can join? So tell us more about these 2 innovative projects. I think this is the first time such projects are being implemented in Lebanon.
Thank you, Alan, for this introduction. Just to introduce briefly the C05 project. It's a UNDP project co-funded by the European Union in partnership with ALI, Association of Lebanese Industrialists, GBC, and IRAC institution. Mainly the purpose of the C05 is to enhance value chains that are existing in Lebanon in renewable energy, such as solar PV and non-concentrated solar thermal. In addition to creating new value chains such as concentrated solar thermal, biogas, and energy efficiency for the private sector, especially industrialists. And to do that, we are offering full technical support for industries in addition to partial grants to implement such projects. And in order thank you. So, and in order to sustain or to make sure that the technology is transferred and well maintained in Lebanon, we're doing a train-the-trainer program in these 4 technologies that we've mentioned: renewable energy and energy efficiency. We have 2 ongoing trainings in biogas and energy efficiency, and for professionals in the sector to take this knowledge and transfer it to others, students, engineers, or the team members. In addition to 2 new train-the-trainer programs that will start in the beginning of 2023. Going back to the Energy Hub that you've mentioned and the IRAC, I'd like to focus mainly on these 2 topics for today. C05 project is working on an Energy Hub. Mainly it's an online platform that that's considered a meeting point for all energy stakeholders in Lebanon. From researchers, incubators, startups, even universities, industries, researchers, experts in the field, where they will be all gathered in this virtual source or platform, where they can share events, share resources, publications, communicate with each other, and make everything, make this communication on this online platform. This online platform will have several users to log in. So if you're a university, you log in a different way if you're an industry. So if you're an industry, you can go to this, sign up into this Energy Hub platform, log in, make an account for you, post jobs, post events, post publications, check what what others are posting. Even energy companies can go there and post. So it have several users, even it will have several modules. In every module you'll have, for example, transportation module. We'll have the transportation module where car dealers can go and upload their electric vehicles there. You can find the electric vehicle station machines in Lebanon, where are they located. You can compare electric cars between each other, how many kilometers per kilowatt hour they are running. There's an industries module where industries can log in and create an account, benefit from industrial energy audits that will be done online as incentives for industries to register. So mainly it's a one-stop shop for the energy sector in Lebanon. And it's a way to ensure the energy transition in Lebanon for this sector. As for the IREC, we're partnering, as I said before, we're partnering with IREC institution to start issuing the RECs in Lebanon. RECs is a renewable energy certificate. Every 1 megawatt hour of renewable energy generated is equal to one REC, which is one certificate. So the purpose is to generate RECs and trade RECs in Lebanon. And so in order to do that, we've assessed the market, the applicability of RECs in Lebanon, and to see if the needed infrastructure is available in Lebanon. That was done already. So the next step is having a local issuer in Lebanon. We are communicating with the Ministry of Energy and Water. They appointed the LCC as the local issuer in Lebanon, where now they are being trained to register solar PV farms, which will be called registrants. So registrants will go to the IREC platform, register their solar PV system, and start generating RECs. These RECs can be either traded or sold, or they can be claimed by the entity itself in case they want to claim their 100% renewable energy product. So if we want to talk about an industry that manufacture products, they can claim that their product is 100%, or their company or their factory is 100% running on renewables by generating the RECs that they can produce from their renewable energy source, and by buying other RECs from different solar PV farms.
So to better understand, those renewable energy certificates will only be traded in Lebanon, not with the outside.
No, it can be done in Lebanon, locally and internationally. So this is considered as an energy attribute. So you're giving the renewable energy produced from renewable sources, you're giving it another impact, which is the energy attribute that you can sell it or you can claim it, other than the electricity that you're benefiting from. So if you have a solar PV farm in Lebanon, you can sell your RECs to an industry in another country that has a CSR, that has a corporate social responsibility of generating 100% renewable energy of their factories. So that's one of the purposes. The other purpose is to create new markets in Lebanon for renewables, because this will give incentives for other players to come and invest in solar or renewables in Lebanon.
Any idea, just to have a figure, what is the price of a REC today?
Today it's between $3 to $5 per REC. One REC is 1 megawatt hour. So if you're generating 1,000 megawatt hour per year, that's $5,000.
So it's an additional, not bad, an additional income that can cover some of the costs. So it's not bad, guys, to consider that. Anybody, by any chance, are you working also on carbon credits, or this will not be part of the program?
No, it's not part of the IREC. IREC is an institution. It's an international institution that's found in more than 120 countries. where they trade RECs. But for now, it's limited to renewable energy credits. Carbon trading is not part of this, but hopefully,
yeah. We want to generate additional income for everyone in order to make our projects more and more viable or economically appealing. So guys, I've heard you all, and you are all doing a great job. So, and you're under different entities. So we have the UNDP, ESQA, we have the EU/ICU, we have AEE. I know we have USAID on the market as well, and we have different entities. And somehow, hearing you all, your work complement each other. So you're generating or you're promoting renewable energy projects. He's promoting renewable energy certificates for those projects. Mario is working on the PV/energy efficiency. A is working on the capacity building. So I would like to hear from you guys, maybe like everyone would take 1 or 2 minutes to tell, is there a collaboration between you guys? So, or you're just like every project is a solo standalone project and no collaboration? Because it would be best for all of us if you can see those expertise being exchanged and all those projects being implemented on a larger scale. So can you tell us a little bit more about the collaboration between those entities? Go ahead, you have the mic.
I have the mic. Actually, we're collaborating with ICU through monthly meetings between the CO5 project and the Restart project. But I think looking from outside, all this collaboration hopefully will be done on the Energy Hub platform. So the ICU can go register on this platform, post their projects, post the pilot projects that they have implemented, new projects, what do they have, the events that they are planning to do, the publications that they have done, even the energy audit that they have mentioned previously. Everything can be published there, and a collaboration hopefully will be done there between different projects, different donors. Even there's entrepreneurs, place for entrepreneurs, place for donors to go sign up and see what have been done in Lebanon and what's planning to be done in the energy sector.
Well, definitely outside of region, collaboration is always there with all of UN agencies in Lebanon. In the case of region,
locally, let's say, on Lebanon level, is there some sort of a collaboration? For example, you started the region. Was there communication with UNDP and CISO or you didn't know about the IREC and you tried to communicate with them and try to integrate or complement each other?
Especially during the inception phase and planning phase of the project, several meetings was held with several stakeholders from across Lebanon, UNDP, local NGOs, international organizations, just to ensure there is no redundancy or we are not targeting the same beneficiaries. So this was our main concern during the planning and the inception phase of region. This is all, of course, in addition to the local facilitating teams that were on site. So that was the coordination.
And you? Maybe Mario, you can, on top of the collaboration, maybe you can tell us if you're doing something. We know that all those efforts comes from the private sector, from NGOs and entities outside the government. Is there any efforts ICU or any other organization are putting to somehow extrapolate or integrate the government or give at least the government those platforms that you created to hand it over to the government to make it more like standardized or legalized, regulated, and get the government integrated in those projects? Can you tell us?
ما فيك تبعدني من الحكومة وش يعطينا وشو عم بيعملوا هلا هيدا أحلى وقت يعني it's the best period now to ignore a bit the government unfortunately to attract more investors and to be able to move forward unfortunately. But yeah, on the long run, what is being developed, what is being implemented, what is being done in terms of studies, policy briefs, etc., from different stakeholders. The main reason behind it is naturally later on to be able to work on the keyword sustainability and through the public entities, because at the end of the day, NGOs and private sector aren't the replacement of any government or any ministry. So all the work is being done to support, to be there, and to provide the service until something called like government be become a reality. So everything that is being done in terms of research papers, policy brief, the point of it is later on to work with the government and to the ministries to be able to implement this based on pilot projects. What Omar said in terms of redundancy, unfortunately, it's all about redundancy. All the projects are a replication of others. The problem is not the collaboration between the different stakeholders, because stakeholders have a barrier, which is the rules of the donors. And at the end of the day, any entity, whether an NGO or a local NGO or a private sector, seek funds. It's based on certain themes, certain criteria, certain rules that they should abide by in order to benefit from the fund. The problem is in part maybe between stakeholders, because you have stakeholders with big ego and they can see themselves as the main implementer and they don't want to share anything with others. And you have the problem with the donors. The donors are, okay, providing you financing, funds and whatever you want, it's fine, it's okay. But at the end of the day, you reach a point where, okay, project is over, or we move to something else. And most of the donors have this problem. They never built on something already existing. Okay? So this is one of the major problems. In other terms, yeah, stakeholders, as Anna mentioned, for instance, ICU and UNDP through the CEDRO project, we are in touch. But mainly it's to not replicate the beneficiaries, so that the same beneficiary doesn't benefit at the same time from both projects. We hope in the coming year that the collaboration will maybe grow a bit bigger through the platform or through whatever possible way. But again, the problem is a mix between the stakeholders in terms of ego and stuff, and you have the part related to the donors, unfortunately.
Yeah, I totally agree on this point, and this was the main idea behind my question, because I know we have a lot of redundancy in the program, so the same money is being put in several places, whereas all entities are working with the same target for the same target, and unfortunately, once the project is finalized, the new investor doesn't take the lessons learned from that project and build upon. I want to go to Ziad. Ziad, can you hear us again? So Ziad, can you tell us more? We have heard lately a lot of incidents with the solar PV, and everybody is, let's say, nagging about that unprofessional people are being integrated in the market, installing bad quality PV. Maybe technicians are not that very well trained to install, and they don't have the necessary know-how to implement solar PVs. So can you tell us more about the importance of certifying people who want to work in the energy field, so that we can at least limit unprofessional technicians or unprofessional companies damaging the reputation of the energy markets?
Yes, Anna, thank you for your question. So exactly what we have witnessed in the solar could literally happen in anything related to this sector if people are not aware what they're doing. The reason, you remember, we thought after certification from the first place is that we had in mind this idea not actually to exclude other people, but to help people get certified. And for those who have the knowledge to acknowledge what they know with the certification. This is beneficial to them. This is beneficial to their client, because the client wants to know that the people doing them the service know what they're doing. And this is beneficial to the country. And then you will result with less accidents, less money paid in vain, etc., and less false promises. We see lots of false promises in the PV installed, and the winter is coming, and now the more and more disappointments we will see with many of the installations happening. However, I'd like to highlight the fact that the market is being ahead of the authorities, unfortunately. unfortunately, which should have been preparing the grounds with the legislation and the capacity building and the training and so forth. So the discussion 2 years back was very different from today. Today there is no power at all from the utility, almost no power. So people are going by force to the solar or to the renewable. First because they need power availability, and then because the generators, the neighborhood generator is becoming very, very expensive and not reliable. Just to shed a light on one point, because I want to look at this also from a positive perspective. You know, I just came back from AEE World, and there was a very interesting discussion also in the US about the bureaucracy when you want to legalize all this introduction of renewable energy and all these energy projects and the PPAs and so forth. So there is a tendency to spend huge investments on individual solutions, even in the US, which is taking place in Lebanon today. And I think that at least what we should do is take in very close consideration what's going on. So there is now a good portion of supply coming from solar, also extremely individualized and distributed, but this can no more be overlooked. So any strategy that was there 2 years ago has to be reconsidered today. And definitely, we can see that, you know, many organizations, every now and then we hear that they're doing some training on solar, etc. So fine, these are all contributing to enhancing, but I think there should be some accredited, accepted certificate that should be like setting the standard so that we go from there.
Thank you, Ziad. I think we still have time for one round of questions, so I want to be as efficient as possible. And the main purpose behind the summit is to get to some strategies and recommendations. So I'm going to start with you, Omar. Can you tell us a little bit about the lessons that you learned or the ESCO learned from the region program, and tell us a little bit about the recommendations that maybe other stakeholders can take and build upon for future projects?
Well, first of all, we cannot stress enough how timely the region came in the times of that the crisis Lebanon is going through, and the impact is far too large to be quantified or to be measured. We were last week in Akkar, and we asked them, how are your prices decreasing relative to the market? And the representative of the cooperative replied with, there would have been no price. Without the solar energy systems, the cooperative would have been closed. So probably this is the #1 lesson that we learned from Lebanon, that the project was very timely and came in the right time. Another lesson that we've learned is that when selecting the beneficiaries, it is important to choose the correct entry point to ensure that through that entry point, a very large impact will be ensured. For example, the beekeepers cooperative that where we installed the solar energy system. Because this beekeeper cooperative now offers a very reasonable price compared to the market, it now serves services to beekeepers from around Lebanon. For example, someone from the south would visit this beekeeper cooperative in Akkar because of their very reasonable prices and the very efficient equipment. Another example of choosing the correct entry point, for example, in Shagdouf, the other village where we installed the solar energy system in the sewing workshop. Because we provided one-of-a-kind equipment, the sewing market flourished in all of the village, and nearby villages started coming and placing orders. So again, the importance of choosing the correct entry point to ensure a very large and sustainable impact.
Thank you, Omar. Mario, I think we have a gold question here that everybody is waiting for. What is next with the Restart program? Any more funds? Everybody's waiting for that. Any new projects, ESCOs?
Well, we're starting to implement the 6 pilot projects that are 70% financed by the European Union. The 30% are covered either by mainly by the energy company. So we will be building on the 6 pilot projects to implement more ESCO model-based projects. We have one hopefully coming project or one component of this new project with the Italian corporation. And 6 new SMEs will be benefiting from energy efficiency and renewable energy implementation, but also through the ESCO business model. We hope for this model to become more of a trend, but something really efficient and really taken into consideration and adopted. We started with Lignor, and later on, as I have mentioned, when there will be a government and a proper ministry, maybe we can better collaborate with them to see how to sustain this model. But the main purpose now is, in addition to these funds, is to attract investors also to at least contribute in part of the funding, because also this model is very attractive to donors, because they won't have to pay 100% of the funds on one project, but they can pay a certain percentage, and the other percentage can be covered by the investors through this business model. So lots of work ahead, and we hope we will have a good impact.
So you've heard it, guys. ESCOs, be prepared for round 2. The money is on the way. Alain, can you tell our audience how can they benefit from this sustainable energy hub? So how can they register? How can they benefit from this networking platform? Any recommendations to our energy companies, energy monitors that we have with us today?
Mainly, the energy hub will be based and will be operational if they will register in it. We are waiting for them to register for that, so that energy hub can operate and can run automatically or organically. So as much as we have registrants, the energy hub will be more beneficial for the registrants themselves. Hopefully, we'll be launching soon the energy hub through a launching event where we'll invite the energy stakeholders and guide them on the process of registering, how they need to register depending on what user they are registering in. In case it's a university, they need to go under the academic user, register under this username, and then go and access the energy hub and see what can they benefit from, and how can they benefit other stakeholders in this energy hub. So mainly it will be operational through the people or the registrants themselves. So we're
yeah, I have a question. So would there be any sort of screening or maybe criteria for people? So automatically, if you register, you're accepted, or there's for example, yeah, because as we said earlier, we have the problem of people claiming they are energy auditors or energy professionals, whereas in fact they are not. So this energy hub will filter those inputs, or it will be like an open platform for everyone, anyone can claim anything?
Mainly, if you want to register as an expert user, there's an expert user where you can go and sign up as an expert. Your file will be transferred to an administrator that will confirm the data, and then you can go online and benefit from the energy hub itself. So mainly it's monitored through and controlled through the administrator account. That is for these coming 2 years, it will be us as C05. We will be operating and managing the platform. And one day the platform will be automatically managed through the different users, through the registrants that are there.
great. Looking forward for this process, and hopefully it will be one way to filter unprofessional people in the market. Ziad, I know that AE is working on different levels in Lebanon. You are working with universities. You have the Council on Women in Energy and Environmental Leadership. But mainly, I want to focus on the internship program that AE offered last year during July and August, and as well this year. So last year it was hybrid, and this year, last year it was completely virtual, and this year it was hybrid. Can you tell our audience more about this internship program for students in the mainly focusing on the energy sector?
Sure, and I apologize. Every time I try to speak, is I'm switching off the phone, switching on the laptop. Sure. So this project came out of a huge need, and last year the need was in the presence of COVID and social distancing, and when companies were closing, and when employees were barely taking care of themselves, and companies barely being able to take care of their employees, there emerged a big need for interns who wanted to complete their internships, students who wanted to complete their internships and graduate. So that was really a huge demand that was not being provided. So at AE, we took the initiative to create this program in energy sustainability. As you said, Anna, it was fully online. This year was with hybrid, with site visits, with some work in workshops in some companies on site, with some others. And this program consisted of, first of all, we accepted this year 135 applicants out of the 145 who applied, and 92 people successfully graduated from the program. So they successfully completed 2 months of internship. We had 13 involved universities, 9 of which from Lebanon. We had 6 countries involved, and we had 12 mentors who are mostly AE members, but some non-AE members who volunteered their time fully over 2 months, in addition to around 16 masterclass speakers. So the program was very rich. There were around 9 tracks, I think, for students to select from, let's say, microgrid, energy storage, building simulation, high performance HVAC, mechanical design, and so forth. So the lighting installation and performance. So the topics were diverse around energy sustainability. But those were complemented with really high-end master classes, whereby we brought the best of the best to contribute to a master class to enrich the program. So the students were following, say, master classes on how to create a professional CV, how to conduct a professional interview. They were like inspiring role models in the energy field. We got the president of AE at large, the previous past president of the AE, the CEO of AE, and many contributors from outside AE, who each spoke about either their journey or their topic of expertise. And it was so rich, and the feedback from the interns was great. We hope to bring it to regional dimension. So maybe a little bit regional, we hope to grow with that and to allow everyone who wants to join this program to join it. It was $0 in, $0 out. And this is a message to everyone listening. It's not that always we need funding. Funding is super important. It's crucial for some projects. But when there are no resources, there are human resources and the will to do it. So this program was all based on volunteering, and all the students, the close to 100 students, benefited from it for free and it allows them to continue doing what they're doing.
Thank you, Ziad. So I want to conclude with the last point that you mentioned. So if there's something I learned from this from the Lebanese situation, is that apparently crisis brings out the best in people. So in those times, we should not sit back and nag. There's no funding, there's no banking, we don't have money. We should only think outside the box, be innovative, and create our own opportunities. And this is what you guys have been doing in the with the collaboration of outside parties and investors and funders. So thank you guys for all the efforts you're putting in order to relaunch this wheel of the energy wheel in Lebanon. Thank you for your efforts and thank you for your time being with us today. Do we have questions in the room, in the audience? Any questions, guys, for our speakers? We have a short video from, I think this is a region project. Yeah. So can you please launch the video, guys? Yeah.
The question is about is there a minimum plant size in order to enroll in the energy program?
You mean the REC? Yes, definitely. Because you have registrant fees. If you need to register your plant, your solar PV plant, there's a registrant fee, and you will be paying for every REC that you're generating. So there's a minimum size so that your system will be worth of investing or registering in the REC. So mainly it's for medium to large scale solar PV plants.
Like figure, let's say 1 megawatt and up, or 10 megawatt and up?
No, you can maybe we can say 100 or 200 kilowatts and above. It becomes worth investing in, but less than that, it's not worth the registrant fees and then paying for every REC that you're generating and then either selling it or claiming it.
Yeah, thank you. Any other question, guys? Okay, can you play the video?
نحن جمعية إنتاجية تتضمن 20 سيدة نشتغل على منتجات تصنيع منتجات متكدسة عن التاجة لصناعة على إنتاج زراعي. فأسسنا جمعية مصنع خل تفاح مطبخ للتصنيع الزراعي. فنحن كنا عم نعاني كثير مشاكل من الكهرباء، لأنه نشتغل ساعة نعصر تفاح، الكهرباء تروح نرجع نوقف الصبايا تكون جايبها بأجار يومي لتروح على بيتها لحتى نرجع ثاني يوم. كثير علينا من مشاكل جمعية اسكت عرفنا عليها، فعرضنا عليها المشاكل. فمشكورة أول شيء الطاقة الشمسية اللي هي كثير حلت من الأمور بالوقت اللي كله بدان ولا في كهرباء. كانت عكاد عطية الجمعية التعاونية اللي احنا أنا رئيسها كانت الكهرباء عندها 24 على 24. هذه التفاح نجيبها بنحطها نجهزها، بعدين بنعبيهم الجرن مي وبنحط التفاح بقلبه ونفوحهم وننظفهم منيح. بعدين بيطلع عافية مثل درج بيطلع على الكهرباء، يعني بينتقل لمحل بتصفي المي بيتصفى. بعدين بينتقل لآلة تانية هيدي بتفرم التفاح. التفاحة مثل ما هي تنزل بقلب ننزلها بقلب هاي المكنة بتفرمه بصير مثل العجينة. نرجع نشيلها بنحطها بمكنة تانية كمان. المكنة التانية هيدي بتفصل اللب والعصير عن القشر والبذر، بيطلعوا هدوليك لوحدهم وهدوليك بينزلوا بالجرن. وبعدين نحن بناخذهم يعني بوسط الموتير والاساطر اللي موجوده بالارض على اي خزان بدنا نحطهم فيه مشان الخارج.
قدمنا دورات عن المحاسبه، عن التسعير، عن التسويق. نحن كثير كنا بحاجه لها، يعني حتى دورات خلتنا نضيف إنتاج على إنتاجنا. نقول إنه في مثل بيقول إنه ما تطعمي ابنك سمك علم الصيد. فالإسكوا مشكورة إنه جبتنا الشبكة وجبتنا السنارة وعلمتنا الصيد. شكرا لكم.
I believe we have a short break before our fourth panel for today, right?
بدي 5 دقائق. بروح ل 14 اللغة الثانية اللغة. ايوه هاي اخر واحدة بس في زوم مع يلا بخلص انت بتاكل شوية حلو.
غير المال
My session starts in like 1 minute, so بس ببعت. Okay. Okay, بس بالجروب ببعت الصورة و you want this sent in the group or news tomorrow? Okay, okay. Yes. بالجروب. ايه. لا واحدة العمر. Okay. فاضي هتتزعبل.
Yes, I sent her this, the same one. She said she Hi, Jessica.
Please can you switch?
Okay, I think we can start. We can start.
Yes, we can.
Yes. Okay, good evening. I think this is the last session for today. Okay. So there's an activity after this. I would like you to welcome with me on stage Mr. Naji Arizé, Mr. Gilles Amin, and online with us Ms. Jessica Abid. We would like to take a few minutes. I would like each of you to introduce yourself the way you want to be known. So can we start with you, Jessica? Can you hear us? Can you hear me, Jessica? No, she cannot hear us. Yeah, Jessica, would you like to introduce yourself for a minute? I thought it's easier if you guys introduce yourself. Okay, you have a problem with your microphone. You're muted, Jessica. Okay. Gilles? I'll introduce you, Jessica. No worries.
Sure. Thank you, Hassan. Very briefly, I work for the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Western Asia as an economic affairs officer focused on sustainable development in the energy sector. Previous to ASQA, I worked with UNDP here in Lebanon on a decentralized renewable energy project. And prior to that, I lived and studied and worked in Canada in the wind energy, solar energy, energy efficiency, and the electrical utility sectors. by profession, by education. I'm an electrical engineer, and I specialize with my master's in renewable energy. So this is me in brief. Thank you, Hassan.
Thank you, Jim. Mr. Naji Abuzaid. Thank you, Hassan. My name is Naji Abuzaid. I'm director of the Euro-Lebanese Center of Industrial Modernization at IRI and of the Center for Innovation Technology, also at the same institution. We provide support to industrial companies, SMEs, startups, etc., in all fields, in ICT, agro-food, packaging, and renewable energy and energy efficiency. And we are running several EU projects, in particular, Mayata'a, a renewable energy and energy efficiency project, which we'll be talking about in a while.
Okay, thank you. Jessica, can you introduce yourself? Can we hear you now? We need to hear you for the later questions also. So, can you hear us or not?
Hassan, if you can hear
yes,
me,
yes.
I'm gonna need the host to mute Zoom.
It's perfect. Okay. Jessica is founder and CEO of a consultancy, New Energy. She draws 15 years of experience in engineering, think tanks, and various other entities in the Middle East region. And her work is mostly focused on sustainable energy systems. Jessica, nice to have you with us. I hope that the connection works. I would like to start off this session by asking each and every one of you exactly at the moment, what in your current roles are you doing in terms of responding to the crisis we are living in? In specific, let me start with you, Gilles. ESCWA, as a UN agency established for years and years, its main aim is to work for the Arab region. And it combines work for the entire Arab region of, I don't know, 22 countries, 24 countries, 22 nations. With Lebanon being a small nation, but ESCWA based in Lebanon, can you brief us about what has been ESCWA's role in the past, especially in the past 2 to 3 years since the financial crisis began? What has been ESCWA's role in trying to alleviate, support the Lebanese, the government institutions to respond not only to the financial crisis, but in specific to the energy crisis?
Sure, Hassan. Very, very interesting question. And not to overlap what my colleague Omar has gone through talking about the region project, because region will mainly be the main part of my answer. But ESCWA started implementing the region project in Lebanon, Jordan, and Tunisia in 2018. And as you mentioned, ESCWA is a regional entity. It's a think tank for the Arab countries. And even though most of our experience has been in policy formulation and advisory, this project was really special in ESCWA's journey in Lebanon because it aimed to build on the regional experiences and the lessons learned it has from the region. So, in very strategic terms, region was the first project implemented in Lebanon that used an integrated approach and business model. And what I mean by integrated is that we did not follow the classical way of just implementing a renewable energy system, fixing the electricity problem for the beneficiaries, whoever they are, and then leaving. Quite the opposite. Region used a know-how model where the integrated approach necessitated that we link up with these renewable energy systems a capacity building component, an energy efficiency component, along with the policy stuff that follow based on the experience. So this harmonious mix of renewable energy projects and capacity building and energy efficient equipment led us to help mainly cooperatives. In the case of Lebanon, like my colleague Omar said, in Aqar, Latia, and Shadouf, it led us to help these cooperatives that were not able to survive the energy crisis in Lebanon had it not been for these systems, to train them on the productive activities they work on to improve their skills, introduce them, for example, to social media advertising so they can increase their sales, teach them obviously more about renewable energy and its applications. And this led to a very successful impact where we were able to help these beneficiaries increase their sales by a big margin, up to 4 to 5 folds, simply by solving this electricity availability and pricing. So here renewable energy was used as an enabler. This allowed them to decrease their prices, become more competitive, their profits increased, and now we're seeing that they were able to save this profit, reinvest it in the business, and grow it. So basically, had it not been for this project and this approach, they would have closed business. They would have been out of business for sure. Nobody would have been able to afford the diesel. What we're trying to do now is, based on the impact of this project, is to get more donor funding, to upscale this project, to implement it in many, many more communities in Lebanon and in the other Arab regions. And just to stress on the regionality of ESCWA that you mentioned, we also brought lessons learned from other Arab nations into the Lebanese mix here in Lebanon, some of which we hope to see in the decentralized renewable energy law. And finally, we're also working with the League of Arab States on the grid code for the interconnection of the pan-Arab electricity market. This is something that I believe will also contribute down the road to Lebanon's electricity stability, because the pan-Arab electricity market is going to really give the renewable energy the push it needs, where it will be generated in much further lands in other countries, but somehow it will make its way to Lebanon while we wait for our own plants. Thank you.
Thank you, Gilles. I think that's really very important if it happens, the interconnection. I'll turn to Jessica. Can you hear me now? Jessica? Can you hear me now? You're muted. You're cursing me, but you're muted. Okay, I'll come back to you.
Hello.
Oh yeah, hi Jessica.
I'm having
Jessica.
can you hear me now?
Yes. So, working for a long time in a development agency, then research.
Hassan, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me? There's a delay, I'm told. But it should be a few seconds. Jessica? Okay, when we get the things hopefully fixed, I'll turn to you, Mr. Naji. Can you brief us as to what activities is SEEM and MIATA currently focusing on in terms of energy in the country?
Well, yes, MIATA is a new project funded by BNI program.
There's a delay of more than a few seconds because I'm listening to you on YouTube and I'm trying to answer on Zoom, so it's taking a long time.
Jessica, we'll come back to you. I'll just let Naji answer and I'll come back to you. Okay? Well, sorry.
The project Mayatawa practically is funded by the EU up to 90%. So the remaining 10% are funded by the partners.
Okay.
We have 6 Mediterranean partners: Tunisia, Egypt, Lebanon, Italy, and Spain,
Nice.
and Jordan. So, in brief, the project goes into 3 main components. The first component is the train the trainers program. The second component is the pilot projects. We are implementing pilot projects in Jordan, Egypt, and Lebanon. In Lebanon, we are taking care of the wastewater and water treatment plant. So we are the plant has a 20,000 cubic meter per day capacity, coupled to a PV system of 30 kilowatt, and it is designed to irrigate the neighboring agricultural area. So it serves as a model.
Solar is enough for the wastewater plant?
It's enough.
It operates it completely.
It operates it completely. Yes, it's a backup. It's a backup. Jordan and Egypt are taking care of the IPV systems and the solar cooling system. So the third component is the Innovation One-Stop Shop service. The Innovation One-Stop Shop service covers services in technical assistance, capacity building, support to export, and also funding opportunities. So within this IOSS that we are launching now, there is a component regarding voucher, providing vouchers to SME startups, researchers, up to 20,000 euro each one. Of course, we can have many companies, many startups and researchers that could benefit from it. The companies eligible are renewable energy companies, energy efficiency companies, wastewater and water treatment companies, so and water sanitation. So these are the 3 components of the project. And later on, at the end of this session, we'll be having a presentation regarding the IOSS and the innovation voucher. So that's in brief what we have now for renewable energy efficiency, and wastewater treatment.
Thank you, Raja. In brief, but quite a lot on your plate.
Yes, but you could ask the question that you want, we'll be able to answer you.
Thank you, thank you. I'll go now to Jessica one more time. Jessica, I hope you're doing well. I introduced you at the beginning, and I wanted to ask you a question. Knowing you, that you've been working in, you worked for a development agency, you worked for international research institutes, covering Lebanon and the Middle East. Now you're working for, not working, now you opened up a private sector firm, company, on energy. So my question to you is why, first of all, and what made you make this decision? But more importantly, do you see any prospects for this company to grow and serve Lebanon, or is this company set up to serve more the region? And thank you.
First, I'm
Jessica? Jessica, yeah, I want you, because we can hear you when you're talking. Can you try to talk from the Zoom, from the link? I will shut down the phone.
Okay, first I'm gonna apologize for all the technical difficulties. I wish I was in the room with you, it would have been easier. And second, I want to start by saying that the purpose and the end goal of the company, hopefully, is to serve energy globally while being based in Lebanon and employing Lebanese people. So that's the goal. Why I did this? So the aim, also the scope of work of New Energy Consult is to deal with policy making and governance to enable energy transition in countries. We see that, and it came from a gap that a lot of the existing policy making processes and the governance structures often hinder energy transition, especially in the power sector, and there are tons of conflicts of interest and so. And we're seeing this now all over the globe. The issues with electricity is everyone is facing, almost every country is facing threats of blackouts, like Lebanon. Now, the irony in this is that it is based in Lebanon, and it starts in Lebanon, where the energy system is so far a big failure, which we hope to address and contribute to, just like everyone in the room right now.
Okay, thank you so much, Jessica. The remaining time that we have, we'll go straight to the subject matter of this session, which is the partnerships between the private sector and the public sector. So I'll start with you, Mr. Naji. How would you rate the effectiveness of the public-private cooperation that has been going on in the country for the past several years, definitely in the energy sector? And how would you recommend that this cooperation can be enhanced?
Well, it's difficult to assess because, as you know, the public sector and the private sector are really a couple. I mean, the public sector draws the policy and draws the momentum, and then the private sector follows. But the the main investment comes from the private sector. And if you have a weak private sector, you cannot sustain. And we've seen in the past years that the private sector was leading, I mean, in energy efficiency, renewable energy, though regulations are put within the public sector, but really we need norms, we need regulations, we need the public sector to follow the trend. The trend of renewable energy and energy efficiency was very quick because of the shortage in the electricity supply. And the Industrial Research Institute lately, because we are rated as private institutions with public interest, we're testing solar panels lately, inverters, batteries, etc., just to be conform to the security and quality assurance that is needed, in cooperation, of course, with the LCAC. Now, as you see, I mean, the major investment comes from the private sector, not the public sector. The public sector draws a line, but the private sector is the main component and the main driver. So how you see it? I mean, it's difficult to assess now because you see the market. I mean, see how the trend is going. We have some good regulations. I mean, the NEAP and REAP should be updated. No, they should be updated because you know the previous objective of having 12% of renewable energy in 2020. I think we've passed this ceiling or this now. I mean, we are at.
You don't believe the 2030 targets are realistic anymore? Do you think we should change the 2030 target, which is, I think, updated to be 30% of our electricity?
Definitely.
Should be more, or
I don't know. I cannot judge because I was not expecting this increase in renewable energy. Yes, I was not. Nobody knew that was because price of fuel was really cost of electricity was really low. Yes, so until now we are paying the bill of the generator much higher than expected. So nobody was expecting this situation. This is why the need, this is why, I mean, yes, comes the need to renewable energy, but it should be regulated. Public sector should follow the trend of the private sector. Public sector should follow the trend of the private sector. Yes.
Thank you very much, Najib. Gilles, same question to you. How can we enhance this partnership between the public and the private?
Given the circumstances of the country and the decent amount of rules and regulations we have, and the room for much more rules and regulations and laws to take the energy transition further in Lebanon, and while we await the decentralized law, which should change the scene a bit, allow my suggestion to be a very practical one, because I seem to find it as a big gap and a big opportunity for the private sector to team up with the public sector in a very nice cooperation. And this will have to be at the level of municipalities. And as you know, we have a lot of diaspora that send money on a monthly basis to municipalities that run their own diesel generators to power the towns. And literally, this money is getting evaporated in the air by burning diesel. So I think there's a big opportunity here for us to put together some sort of a business model or a fund that will take all this money that's being sent and then invest it in a renewable energy system that will help this diesel generator, that will help each municipality reduce its dependence on diesel. And the old argument against this was that how are you going to export the electricity when the EDL power is on? Well, now it's not on at all. And the money keeps being sent, the diesel keeps getting burnt. So I think this is a big opportunity for the private sector, citizens and municipalities, the public sector, and the involved ministries to put together some sort of a framework that will organize this entire operation, that will channel the money correctly, and invest it in a sustainable manner that will ensure that generations on end in the future will be able to benefit from these systems. And should EDL power be restored, I think at that time there will be enough economic value given the tariff increases that might occur to find other solutions to connect to the grid, maybe build on what was done in Cabrica by UNDP, but really to me at least, this is a very huge elephant in the room right now that doesn't seem to be getting too much attention. And if we were to gather data on the amount of money being sent every month for this purpose, and with how cheaper solar technologies seem to be getting, in my opinion, it seems a no-brainer. And I'd love to hear more from the crowd or from yourselves as panelists about this proposal for public-private cooperation and partnerships.
Thank you, Gilles. You can have your phone again, please, to call Jessica. Jessica, you have a discussion with the public-private cooperation and how we can do this. From your experience, knowing this country very well, how do you rate the public-private partnership in the past, and what recommendations would you give for the future? Thank you.
I'm gonna add a disclaimer that YouTube is apparently 4 or 5 minutes behind, so I haven't heard what my colleagues on the panel have answered. So in case I do repeat the same things, I apologize also for this. So I'm like a deaf woman in here. So no country can thrive without having, without engaging the private sector, and at all times the government needs to engage the private sector for its know-how, for its investments, etc. What we're seeing now is that the private sector and also international agencies stepping up to do the work that the government should be doing. So I'm not sure there is, at the current stage, public-private engagements. It's more like the private sector stepping in where the government has failed, especially what we're seeing now in the energy sector. But that's also a double-edged sword because in the past, what we've seen after the war is people replacing or finding that the state cannot meet the basic services such as electricity and replacing that with private sector generators. What we're seeing now is a similar mechanism where people are fed up with the state, but also with generators and are finding a second alternative, which is the solar PV industry. But there's no actual substitute for a functioning state to be there and for institutions to be able to carry efficient public-private engagements and public-private projects. At all times, this will be needed in the future for the power sector to build BOO or BOT models, which will be needed, but we need the required regulations in place. We need a rule of law because even when we do have rules and laws are not being implemented, we do need an enabling environment, starting, of course, with a financial solution and strengthening institutions to have these efficient models. You cannot have just the private sector operating or just donors, international agencies, despite all the great work they're doing. But we also need the government to step in and do the role of a government, which has been lagging in the past few years.
Okay, thank you, Jessica. Anything you want to add before I turn to my last question, before I leave for the audience in case they have any question? Anything on this particular point? Okay. The last point before I open the floor really is, and I think some of it has been answered a bit. We are in a state of complete freefall. The government is practically not present at the moment. The private sector is taking initiative haphazardly to try to fill the gap, as you mentioned, as Jessica mentioned just now. And it's even difficult for us, me, you, that work in organizations, to wake up in the morning and to be motivated to keep going, and to keep trying, and to keep working. So I really want your opinion, if there's hope, of how you see things playing out, how you see your institutions are adding value to the current extremely difficult situation that we are in. So again, from your institutional perspectives, but also as mentioned, a word about if the private sector, there is no government on the other line, on the other side of the line, there is no public sector on the other line. What should the private sector do in and by itself? We'll start with you, Ajit, please.
Sure.
Yeah, we'll move them to please. Go ahead, Ajit, please.
Okay. Thank you. As I mentioned earlier, not to repeat myself, with the business model that Region created, we think this is something that needs and should be replicated across Lebanon in terms of small-scale renewable energy, while we await the government for the implementation of the utility scale stuff. But another low-hanging fruit for the private sector that needs a bit of government, because we do have a draft decentralized renewable energy law that's now, I believe, with Parliament. But I think it's very crucial for an amendment to be included in that law that will enable the private sector, just like the private generators do now, to sell power directly to people, to citizens, to consumers, without the need of having the adjacent land and going through a land and whatever. There needs to be a clear clause that will enable leasing mechanisms, pay-as-you-go models, these innovative mechanisms that will enable investment in this sector. And basically, this will allow these renewable energy systems to start offsetting at a new level, in a new perspective, the diesel generation we have. Because currently the private sector cannot sell electricity to residential customers. Put aside the commercial sector that's much more big in terms of scale, they are unable right now. There is no legal text that allows it, yet the private generators do that. So why not open up this market to the private sector? People with no capital to invest in a full-scale solar systems on the roof of their homes, yet they have the $100 and the $200 to pay a month for the diesel generator. Why don't we create this market? And we highlighted this in the case study we developed within region at ASQA on the policy and regulatory reforms that are needed in Lebanon. And we believe this is something very crucial. This is something that's choking the growth in the market right now. And yes, let's open up the private sector at this scale.
Okay, before I turn to you, Naji, I would like just to open a bit of discussion quickly on this. The distributed renewable energy law was written 4 years ago. And then it went to EDL for comments with the ministry, with the CEC, with the parties' involvement, and then to the Council of Ministers, and now it's being discussed, hopefully to be ratified. The whole point of the law originally was to avoid two things: to avoid being blamed to be another model like Zahle, and I'm not saying whether the model Zahle is right or wrong, but we knew that it would face a lot of political objection, and to pass under the bridge of the conflict of Law 462 and the establishment of the regulatory authority and all that. So what you're saying, in my opinion, is extremely right. It's better. But once and if this law is ratified, and again, now a lot of political issues going on, but the main theme of the law, once it's ratified in Parliament, you will have a body existing, and the law should not stay there as it is. But you have a framework that you can go and amend. It's easier to amend the law, add a few articles, than it is to create one from scratch. So what you're saying, I'm with you, but let's hopefully that this law will pass as it is, and then in the near term, it will be improved, and it should be improved. Thank you. Najib.
Well, I agree fully with Jill. I'm with the development of a hybrid system, because this will ease the electricity supply and will decentralize it. Speaking about the law, I'm not sure, I'm not aware of it, of this law, but I think that the Lebanese are resilient. So whenever we don't have any government, we have, I'm not speaking politically,
yes.
Practically, we don't have any government. The government is neutralized. We have some regulations, we have some laws that have passed, we have an electricity plan, we have big hopes, but we cannot implement it. So if you're neutralized, the job is done by the private sector, but it's done by the private sector erratically. If you don't have any regulation to regulate this, we go into chaos like we are having now. We're into chaos in renewable energy installation, chaos in bills paid to private generators, yet we are not, we're not able, and we don't want to pay the government the bill that we are paying for the generator, just for because we don't have confidence in them. So I'm not sure how things will go, but we are speaking about the absence of the government. Yes, the government is absent, but practically we're living erratically. So I don't know. In the future, maybe we should develop a hybrid system. Hybrid system is decentralized.
Yes, and I think the hybrids have been working really good in the commercial and industrial sectors.
Yes, practically, yes, it's working. It's working. It's working. Everyone is working. No one is lagging.
Okay. Let me open the floor. So, because Jessica talked about the private sector, I think, well. Let me open the floor. Does anyone here who still has energy would like to ask a question to Naji, to Jessica, to Gilles? Online, I'm not seeing the chat. Do you see the chat on your phone, Naji? There's nothing in the chat. Okay. Last question? Okay, yes.
There's something I'd like to shed light on and ask you, or even ask the audience. Yesterday, when we first came in here, there was a video playing. I believe it was produced by EUB, and part of the video spoke about the town of Jabouli in the Bekaa, where they showed like a larger scale solar PV system with dedicated metering for each customer, and we saw a consumer walk up to the meter, and he had like a pay-as-you-go card, and he punched the code in the meter and pressed enter, and it recharged. So to answer you, I believe this is something that responds to what we both agree on. And what can we learn from this project? Can we channel the diaspora's money, like I mentioned earlier, to replicate it? While the EDL power is absent, of course. I believe it used an existing network or it ran its own network. But as Naji was saying, I think this is a very good hybrid system while we await the final solution consisting of 20 to 24 hours per day. If any of you or anyone in the audience, because I haven't had time to do any research on it, can shed a bit more light on this, I believe, successful model, and how can we replicate it across Lebanon?
Okay, again, I agree with you, but this particular law organizes the relationship between the private sector, whether you're generating your own power or selling power between private to private, but using the grid. If you're not using the grid, you're using a separate grid, that particular law does not say anything about that. It stays silent about that. Should this be added? This is up for discussion, and I think you do have a valid point to actually make. It's much easier for a village to say to EDL, listen, this is our jurisdiction, we have a solar, and we will send you solar at one point, and we'll take from you at one point, but let us do all the billing inside. That's much easier than doing virtual net metering and what have you. I'm 100% with you. But are we there? I don't know. Are we ready for that? I don't think so at the moment. That's my opinion. Yes.
To add to what you said, because I had totally forgotten about this, I believe this is what the INARA project by USAID is doing. Because I had the curiosity to check their application for the municipalities to apply to this project they have. And they list on top that these are the list of comparable towns in Lebanon that are fed from the same EDL feeder. So I believe, this is my interpretation, I have no confirmation, that they will be implementing renewable energy projects in towns where they will be able to isolate the single feeder that feeds the town, to energize it from solar, and in the event where EDL power comes on, the hybrid mode, like Naji was saying, will kick in, and now you have double feed, solar plus EDL. I think that's what the model they're looking into.
Yes, I think so too. There's some technical questions we can talk about it after, because I don't understand how it's going to work, honestly, but I'm sure they know better. Can I call Jessica one last time before I let her go and finish the session? And as you'll ask her the final question as well. Jessica, we have to leave, and I think we're wrapping up here. Are there any final messages you would like to say within the discussions that we've been having? We hope to see you very soon.
Since I'm so late in the discussion because of the YouTube lag, so I'm not sure what has been said, so I add to it, but I have a few things to say, so I'm going to say it anyway. I don't want to say the good thing, but there's an opportunity now for Lebanon. It's like building an infrastructure from zero. At times when globally we're witnessing an energy transition. And the good thing in the energy transition is that it's a less centralized model, it's less monopolized. And this is an opportunity for Lebanon to step out of the monopoly of EDL in power generation and create these models that engage more stakeholders in terms of private sector, but also local communities, municipalities and others. So this is an opportunity to build on and reduce reliance on diesel because of all the different systems in the energy transition. This is why decentralization is very important, but also having a regulator, but not just any regulator, an independent regulator with full mandates that's credible, whose staff are appointed based on legitimacy and credibility, because what we're seeing also now in the market, in the solar industry market, is total chaos. So again, I also repeat what I said before, that there's no substitute for a solid government and strong institutions. But until we get there, at any point in time, we need to engage better the private sector and local municipalities and have a decentralized renewable energy law and a strong regulator in place. But as a last note, I also want to add that it's not just also the model that would reduce a monopoly and build a healthy competition, but also the governance behind it. So you can also have on a centralized, large-scale power plants, independent power producers, and have bids launch and everything, and still land in a quasi monopoly where the same bidder would be awarded all the contracts. So the governance is a priority for any future government, if we do have a good government, and I hope so. And thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Jessica. We'll finish the panel with you, Mr. Najib. Any last words you would like? Any hope?
No, I thought that I'm not so worried about it. I'm not so worried because we are resilient and we find solutions. We are living, we have electricity. Yet we don't have electricity from the DL, but we are managing ourselves. Now what we need is capacity building for SMEs, for startups, and not really investments in, only seed money. We need capacity building, we need technical assistance, we need support in export. And we can, I think we can manage. Yes.
Especially to train the young generation. Yes, many are leaving.
Yes, definitely. This is why we're bringing project from abroad and working on this, especially in the vouchers that we are launching in 2 weeks. We speak about it now, and in the innovation one-stop shop service that we are also operating starting for next week at the Industry Research Institute.
Okay. Thank you so much, Najib. Gilles, thank you so much. Jessica, thank you. And that's it. Thank you.
Bye.
Guys, can we switch?
Hot laptop.
Okay, hello everyone. So my name is Talat Saran, and I'm here to represent the Mayataka NECD Cement co-funded project. So today I'm going to be talking about briefly the project and specifically the launch of the IOSS, which is the Innovation One-Stop Shop. So quickly, the project, as has been explained previously by the project manager, Mr. Najib Azad, it's a project that targets mainly 4 sectors. So we're talking about wastewater treatment, we're talking about BIPV, about the solar thermal for cooling application, and microgrids. Now, the partners that we have are 8. So we have 4 MPC or Mediterranean countries, plus 4 EU countries, plus 3 associate partners, for a total budget of 3.1 million, which is for a duration of 3 years that is going to end up in September 2023. So it's interesting to look at the mission of the project to understand why we're launching this IOSS. So if we go back to the originally to the let's say the project itself, we have done a kind of estimation or study of the context of the Lebanese context, and we see that there are several, in fact, not just the Lebanese, I would say also Egyptian and Jordan, so the countries that are partner, and we've seen that there are several barriers to be able today to stimulate innovation in the country, especially related to resource efficiency, such as solar energy, water, and others. So these are here listed here. So the lack of skills, we can see the lack of info, lack of regulation, lack of finance, and finally the matchmaking. So in the project, we decided to tackle each of these through a specific work package or through a specific activity. So for example, for the lack of skills, we worked a lot on building capacity through trainings, different kinds of trainings, trainings of trainers, training of SMEs. So we have been doing a lot of trainings. I'm going to talk about it quickly in a few minutes. In the case of lack of info and finance, we worked on developing the IOSS or the Innovation One-Stop Shop, so the Innovation Desk, which is going to be used as a service to provide guidance and information for the SMEs and companies working in the resource efficiency services, as well as providing finance or financial incentives. And for the lack of regulations, the project is going to work on guidelines with policymakers. And finally, for the matchmaking, B2B events are going to be organized. So this whole process is mostly to promote innovative RE services in demand countries. So who are the targets? Who are our targets? The main targets in this case are SMEs. SMEs working and companies and technology providers working in this field, in the RE sector. Plus, we do not limit it only to SMEs. We are also including in all our project, in all our meetings and trainings, also people from business associations, from chambers of commerce, from research and students, from universities, as well as national and sectorial institutions. So one of or some of the milestones that have been already achieved in the project are the execution of pilot projects. So we have been able in the project to realize 4 pilot projects in Egypt, in Jordan, and Lebanon. So I'll go quickly over these projects. The first one in Jordan, it's about solar cooling. It was done in the Aqaba region. So plus another project of BIPV in the facade. So facade, let's say solar PV that were integrated facade to cater the needs for the Chamber of Commerce in the Amman area. Another project that was conducted or what is implemented is a market. In fact, it's a Amriya market in Egypt, which was it's the first of its kind, where the entire need of around 100 kilowatt peak was provided by a off-grid PV system, and this was integrated last month. And finally, our pilot project, I would say our, because I'm a member of this team, where we have recently installed a small-scale wastewater treatment plant at the premises of IRI and Lebanese University in Hadad, where we're going to work on treating the water that's coming from partial waste plus the outcome from the labs, because you know that the IRI has several labs and they do a lot of testing. So this small scale is located in the parking area, facing the main building of the IRI. it's going to be powered entirely by solar systems, by a 25 kilowatt peak solar system to install to power up all the pumps used for the MBBR system that is installed. So these were one of the things that we have been able to achieve that are used for the building capacity. How they're used in building capacity? Through using them as demo plus as training platform. So for that, we were able to realize several trainings across the project. We started with trainings of professionals to, let's say, graduate, what we call trainers. So the training of trainers. For that, we started the first step with partnership or with help of experts from Italy, from Egypt, from Spain and other countries, Greece and other countries. The first set, or the first, I would say, training was concluded in 2021. Then there were another training, national training, that was conducted and concluded recently in July 2022, where at the end the visitor or the participants were able to visit and inspect the installed systems or the installed wastewater treatment system, which is at IRI. The program by itself for now hosted more than 60, or let's say trained at least more than 60 participants who got the certificate for now. More attended, but we took a threshold of a certain number of attendants to be able to deliver the certificate. So here you can see some examples of the people who gave lectures or who took the certificates from attending the training, and some of them became trainers and helped and will be helping, because there will be one last session, national training will be helping at the final last year. Okay, with that I move to the main objective of this presentation, which is the launching of the RSS. So just to say that at the Industrial Research Institute and specifically at the unit, which is the LCIM unit, there will be now integration of our test that there will be functional in the next days. There will be a one-stop shop which has been developed the past year. So the process that we went through in order to reach this point was to go through first the market gap analysis, then by choosing the business model, to elaborating a business model for the ISS to ensure sustainability, and finally by fine-tuning this model in order to create a sustainable one-stop shop to meet the national needs and resources for the RE services. How this, or what are the objectives of this RSS? So there are 5. So capitalization, increase of R&D activity, boosting agreements, exploitation of results, and finally promotion of the culture of innovation in the country. So when we're talking about capitalization, we are capitalizing on the project results and from the lessons learned from the project to go beyond the project. With the increase of R&D activity, the objective of the RSS is going to be is going to provide facilitation to put the contact of SMEs, or let's say to provide facilitation for SMEs and entrepreneur as a central focus point for that. And for boosting agreements, mostly for the technological transfer, especially through funding, through research consulting, with key experts, let's say from academia and researchers from academia. As for the exploitation of results, the ISS will help in the use and of these results in order to disseminate those results and multiply their impacts in the society. And finally, in promoting a sustainable culture for innovation. What kind of services can we expect from the ISS? Technical, business, and training, capacity building, which Najla has already mentioned before as a very important need today for the country. Identifying innovative projects for funding, finally, and managing the call for funding. So, if I start with the first one, what are the technical services? What do we hear by technical services? Legal advices, intellectual property, trademark, all kinds of needed specialized advice for these. Plus, support of internationalization. Today we need that. We need to go international to get fresh money from outside the country. Plus, financing and funding search. Training, we've been doing training, that's going to be institutionalized now as part of the ISS. Innovation courses will be given by requesting, or let's say tendering international experts for that, which is already part of the Mayataka project, through online or face-to-face meetings, and by also creating workshops and debate tables. Finally, a funding. So what I'm going to talk about now is the funding or the call for vouchers. So managing the funding calls. So all that comes with it in terms of technical and financial justifications, in terms of monitoring and auditing, and finally all the legal aspects, the secretarial work in terms of agreements, in terms of contract signature, and so on. So the first thing that the RSS will start with will be the kickoff of the activities, going to be through managing a call for or a voucher of 60,000 euros for a minimum of 3 companies, so 20,000 euros minimum for 3 SMEs in Lebanon to receive services in innovation and developing their innovation services or innovation products, especially related to RE services. So there will be 3 phases to be able to apply or to get the access to the services. So we have the phase 1, which is going to be the selection, the phase 2, which is the formulation of the innovation request to be able to tender the proper people who will provide the needed service. And the third one is going to be the selection of the contractor, and the service is going to be provided to the SME or the company is going to benefit from the help. So the first thing is going to start with the launch of the voucher open call, which is going to occur in the coming weeks. Now, it's worth mentioning that the 20,000K is not going to be a direct money given to the SME or to the company. It's going to be managed by the IOSS, and it's going to be paid for a service directly by the IOSS to the service provider, which means if a company which is interested in, for example, a certain service like a marketing or a patenting, IP, and so on, it can request the need for the service, and if the RSS or the manager of the RSS finds that this is in line with the benefit for reaching the objectives of the innovation, then it will be granted. It's going to be managed directly by the IRI to the provider. So it's kind of what we say, it's in kind service of 20,000 euros. Now, for the eligibility of application, the company that can apply have to be at least established since 12 months with a valid commercial register number. The applications can be applied as just a single company or maybe as both companies that are composed as of working as co-developers for the innovation solution. As for the eligibility, also criteria, the amount should not exceed 20,000. So we said at the beginning it's three SMEs minimum. It may be more. We will be, in fact, there will be a committee that will judge based on the importance. There will be ranking, and then if they judge that there will be room for more, it may be a little bit less, but at least there will be 3 who will be benefiting from the support. The service needs to be related to a resource efficiency application, so PV, solar thermal, wind, energy efficiency, all these are part, and wastewater and water treatment are all these part of resource efficiency services. And another thing is for the time frame. Once a company is selected, they will benefit from these services for a period of 4 months, not more than that. For more details, you have all the links that are here. So you have the website of the Mayata and NCDC and the website of Alcine, plus the social media platform. So please go visit those sites in order to be connected and to follow on the progress if you're interested in applying for the voucher later and for the IOSS also to benefit from the services. Thank you for your attention, and if you have questions, please comment.
you for the presentation. So what I wanted to understand is when you say, I mean, this can cover part of the implementation of a project, because if we go back a bit, wait, more, here. So the service should be related to PV solars. For example, it can be someone who wants to install a system, a solar system, and the $20,000 covers something of it,
So, okay, so
or it has to be just the technical part of this.
So here I'm not launching the call, so it will be released, but I'm going to explain to you because I know exactly what's going to be as details. So we cannot cover equipment. The cost is going to be only for services. So all these are going to be explained with the application form, with the details of what are eligible, non-eligible. So we cannot pay for installing that. So what's going to be eligible are mostly soft services such as business development, internationalization, taking your innovation idea internationally, helping you with, for example, legal incorporation, patenting, trademarks, and so on. So this is the kind of services that this is going to be covered by this innovation voucher.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.